How y'all doing?
Good.
Good? Alright, I haven't given this briefing in about 6 months. It does get hard for me at times with some of these stories. I found out, this is Resiliency, so this goes into it. One of the big things I found through my career is talking about bad situations helps normalize them, and then you don't cry every time you talk about seeing kids get blown up and whatnot. But at a certain point, I realized that if I do this course every other month, it keeps me thinking about some of these bad things, so I need a break sometimes. So they gave me a break. It was nice. This right here, don't pay any attention to this right now. I don't have any rank or anything right now. This is Bo. Okay, telling some stories in an academic environment, and I might shed a tear. Y'all might shed a tear. They are combat stories, so I'm going to just throw out that disclaimer that I might say a bad word accidentally. It just happens, especially when I get back into thinking about things. Another reason too is when I first gave this, I was wearing my ABUs with my rank, and I had an individual in the class say that I was the most disrespectful and unprofessional student here in CO he'd ever seen, because while I was in tears, I said a bad word. So there is that. So you can't make everyone happy all the time. So anyway, I'm Bo. I am an EOD tech, and I have 5 tours. One of them was a vacation in 2002 to Qatar. 3 beers a day is a vacation, sorry. And the other 4 were between Iraq and Afghanistan, and we'll break those down a little further too. In those times, I completed over 500 missions, outside the wire missions, going on IEDs or post-blast, weapons caches, you name it, I've seen it, and defused just over 200 IEDs, lost count there after a while. And in that time, I get blown up a couple times, Purple Hearts. One of them took 7 years to get, and a mom who knows her congressman. And if you are entitled to something, make sure you get it. A Purple Heart gets my kids' college tuition, etc. when they come of age. FYI. And then the Bronze Stars. That's just about being in the wrong place at the wrong time sometimes. And I like how Captain Seymour said it. That creates a story. Sometimes something that doesn't get portrayed very well. I see a lot of young airmen. I've had buddies call me and they're like, hey, I got this new airman and he heard about you and he wants to be like you and have all those medals. What do I say to him? I said, that crap comes with a price. I'm now working on my 2nd divorce right now, and I've had many of sleepless nights, to include this past week actually, thinking about giving this briefing again. And those medals paint a picture on a lot of guys' chests. Sure, they did the right thing at the right time, but sometimes at night they pay for it. So think about that. With that POTUF briefing you guys just have, I've been in their office quite a bit in my career, and especially recently, having POTUF, no documentation in that, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I go up there and just vent, or I can go up there and get advice, and they're there to listen for you, and there's nothing wrong with going to them. All right, I've done it. I'm a dude. I'll admit I've cried. How many of you can admit you've cried? Right? There's a lot of liars out here. I don't see. So, all right, we'll get on it. Oh, hey, so that picture right there, do I look a little tired in it? A little bit. So that was probably 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. 6 o'clock that morning, one of my buddies stepped on an IED and lost both of his legs. And it's hard to see in the picture, but that's blood, because I had to put tourniquets and stuff on him. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But that was the first time I got, and then I had to render safe another IED next to him after we got him medevaced out. And so that was the first time I got to sit down that day and try and relax. There's some fun stuff that came out of that though. Alright, so I found these definitions online. They're not mine, but resilience can be defined as a psychological process developed in response to intense life stressors that facilitates healthy functioning, or the ability of individuals to maintain relative stable mental function throughout the course of events. Maintaining that through the event. So I was in a situation, actually last time I got blown up, before I got blown up, when I showed up on scene where someone else had been blown up, and there was a few casualties. Well, when I showed up on scene, a lot of these young Army Joes were sitting on the rear ends crying. They weren't holding their sectors, they weren't performing medical care, etc. They lost their minds. It was their first experience of that nature, and they did not have the training beforehand or the mental fortitude instilled into them by their supervisors to make it through that event once their lieutenant and their ranking NCO went down, right? So resilience can be very important and save lives. And that goes through a lot of things. Your 4 pillars of resilience, you guys, in the last few years, right, this is the new really dry 4 pillars, right? That's why they asked me to give this class, because that's dry, and I hated sitting through that the first time, you know. So there's your pillars: psychological, physical, social, and spiritual. My take on these: psychological, mental, right? That's how you keep your mind. How do you see what's going on right now? Your physical. Now that goes one of 2 ways for me. You can, I've been blown up a few times. I've got a cracked vertebrae right now. Actually, I just broke my leg in December. But I could, at my rank and time in the Air Force, I could decide, hey, I could just quit in a few years and let myself go, or I can continue to lead from the front and get myself as physically back in shape as possible, right? Right. So anyway, broken back, I'm like, all right, I need to strengthen my back, you know. So now, you want to do pull-up competition? I can do 30 in a row, and then flip over and do 20 to 30 more chin-ups, right? Strong back. Now I can still operate. So that physical pillar is about keeping yourself ready to go and staying in the fight. Also, I have a buddy, Paul Taylor, the ODA guy. He used to get mad, really, yeah, hot temper. Well, using that pillar right there, Paul, go work out. They were called angry workouts. Sometimes Paul got put in timeout in the gym, and he would go work out, and he would come back, and he'd be happier, right? Angry workouts. Social, that's left, right, up, down in your chain of command. Okay, your social pillar, your peers, those you work with, those you work for. All right, those are the guys, gals that should be watching out for you. They spend the most time with you during the day, right? Your spouse and kids don't see you. The men and women in this room see you. Right? And you guys also go through the same experiences together. So I have some of the men that I've gone through these experiences with that I'm going to talk to you about. We still stay in very close contact and talk about things because we know what the other one's dealing with. All right? Now the other part of your social pillars, your friends at home, your family. How well do you talk to them? How well do you prepare them? Okay? My kids make up my social pillar sometimes because after a long day or whatever, I go home, throw my stuff on the floor, and I wrestle. I got a 4-year-old daughter that can almost beat me up. I mean, she is tough. But you know, that's part of my social pillar is that outlet that I have with my kids. Back when I was deployed and had a spouse, I could call her and she could just tell by the tone of my voice that something was up. And without giving too many details, I was able to kind of talk through some things, share some emotion, cry it out on the phone, but then get that emotion out, and I could go back into the tent with my guys, let them cry on my shoulder if they needed to. And I was able to get myself strong, so then I could be their social pillar and get them strong. Spiritual pillar. All right. This one could be a touchy subject. I'm not saying that you have to be a Christian or a Catholic, an atheist. That spiritual pillar is about serving something greater than yourself, right? That could be the Air Force, it could be your family, it could be your airmen in the dorms could have a picture of Matt Damon in your wall locker. It doesn't matter. It's about serving something greater than yourself. So for a very long time, I grew up, my mom loves me, I grew up training horses, then riding bulls, and then the bomb squad. That poor woman has had open heart surgery, partly due to me, I think. But when I was rodeoing, I was part of the Christian Cowboys Association. I grew up like in grade school and stuff. I went to church. Great. Didn't get it then. I was a kid. In high school, Christian Cowboys Association. I was being selfish though, and I'll be honest. That's where the pretty girls were at. I was a teenage boy. Okay, there was other reasons I was going to that as an outlet or as something to do. I was being selfish, self-centered, right? I didn't get out of it what I needed to. Joined the Air Force. You're damn right I went to church on Sundays. I had to get away from my TI, right? 2 hours, no yelling. They loved me. But, and then combat started though. And I lost quite a few friends, and it limited me on that spiritual pillar, because I was like, why? I had a close friend of mine, Tony Capra, that I worked with in Iraq in '05. We were bunkmates, operated together, and then a couple tours later, he got smoked by an IED, left behind 5 kids. Dude was he was a good spiritual man. Matt Schwartz, me and him went through basic training together, EUD school together. I mean, we were buddies up until January 5th, 2012, when I was receiving my Purple Heart. And I'm going to say this because this is why it kind of got me back into that spiritual pillar. January 5th, 2012 was when I received my Purple Heart from Afghanistan. It was also the day that I PCS from there to here. Right? We had my going away party, so it was all about me, right? And then I get the text, and all it said was Matt Schwartz, and I knew exactly what that meant. And so it was like, hey buddy, I'm gone, but I'm here to remind you that those medals are for, you need to wear those for your other guys, right? And then about 6 months later, when I was here, I got another medal, and they did a paper an article in the base paper, and front page, there I am with my family and that. I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. 2 pages later, there's another picture of Matt Schwartz. I was like, thanks, buddy. Just keeping me humble. I appreciate that, you know. But he left behind 3 kids, and questioning things. And then another good buddy of mine, Phil Myers, he was 4 days shy of a year after Tony. And the kicker to it with Phil is he always had this saying that EUD techs don't die, they go to heaven to regroup, right? And then he died, and that tore me up really bad too, because one of my airmen that was mine at home station was his team member and had to handle that situation, and then I had to help him with that afterwards. Right? It was really emotional there for a long time. But a couple years later, when I got hit, I should have died in 2011. My wife was 6 months pregnant with our now 4-year-old, and you do the blast frag calculations. The gentleman that was standing 4 feet away from me that stepped on the IED, we found this much of him. Right? We thought I had an open compound fracture. That scar right there was actually a piece of his bone inside of me. I should have died. And while I was unconscious, I swear I saw my daughter, my unborn daughter's face. And it was in that moment that I got to thinking, I was like, well, damn it, if Phil ain't right. Those men are out there regrouping, and they want me here for some reason. They're looking after me. And it just got me thinking. So, anyway, spiritual pillar. After all that was said and done, got here a couple years ago, went through some hardship, almost divorced 2 years ago, now we are now. But in that time though, I was like, man, I really need to figure something out with my life. I'm being selfish. So I really got into it with my church. My pastor got a hold of me and made me read Proverbs. I was like, wow, I've been messing up a lot. I became a youth leader at my church, and I started serving something other than myself and the Air Force, for that matter. And it really helped me change my perspective on life. So, break those out a little bit further. I got you guys for what, 2 or 3 hours today? Working through lunch? Yeah, no problem? All right. So, your active coping style. Problem solving and managing emotions, right? That's that mental pillar. Solve the problem at hand. You know, if you got someone blowing up, if there's a robbery going on, whatever the case may be, you need to problem solve and manage your emotions, okay? Deal with your emotions later. Try not to hold yourself up and be that person in the corner crying, right? That's what that comes down to. How do I cope with the situation at hand? There's plenty of resources afterwards to deal with your emotions, okay? But you gotta learn that active coping style. Your positive outlook, enhancing optimism, decreasing pessimism. That is huge for me. I like to have a good time, and I like to joke about a lot, and it's actually helped me and my buddies through a lot of crap we've dealt with in theater. But that pessimism, it destroys me, right? And it will destroy you too. If you surround yourself with pessimistic people, you're not going to be a happy person, okay? So surround yourself with optimistic people. They know how to find the good in adverse situations, with that cognitive flexibility coming up next, right? Spin things to your benefit. okay? Look for the good. There's good in every situation, depending on what angle you could throw at it. One I like to throw out, because it was very close to us here at USAFSOS, 2 summers ago in July, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Murray, he was our division chief up here, he passed away from cancer and left behind his 2 sons, right? That's horrible, right? We could sit there and mourn that and feel bad for him and just keep going down that rabbit hole of pessimism and not being happy very easily, right? What's a positive outlook in that? Any ideas? Positive outlook in that. Lieutenant Colonel in AFSOC passed away, has 2 kids. What's a positive in that?
I think they have somebody to look up to.
Well, they got someone to look up to, but under POTF and SOCOM and all that, his kids go to college for free one day. They are going to be taken care of throughout their childhood. You all know that? Yeah. That's a great thing about being here, right? So there is positives. It's just you got to look for it, right? And then concentrate on that and help them through it. Help yourself through it. Kind of explanatory style. Place and blame where it really belongs. You don't always own it, okay? Now, if you get drunk and run over a kid, own that, all right? That's your fault. I'm just throwing that out. My cousin got hit and killed by a drunk driver when we were in the 2nd grade. Own that one, right? You made a bad decision, okay? Now, in my situation, this last one when I got hit, right, and the first sergeant was the one that stepped on the IED, I was blaming myself for that because I was the UD tech on the ground, right? That's my scene. Telling myself I should have found that one before he hit it, even though I was working on one right next to it, etc. I was blaming myself. So I went to mental health after I got back, and that doc kind of changed my life. He, on his dry erase board, well, first of all, he was like, I can't relate to you because I haven't been through that. But what I'm going to do is give you some tools that I think will help you overcome it. I said, spot on. And that'll go back to another story. But he drew a circle on his dry erase board and he put a line down the middle of it. He said, blame 2 people for that incident. He said, myself and first sergeant. He stepped on it, I didn't find it. He said, all right, split that in half. Blame 2 more. The insurgent that planted it and the president. Put another line. 2 more people, right? Like, shoot, the farmer and the dude that built it, right? Another line. And he kept doing this and making me really apply some critical thinking to it on all these different components led to that situation where I was there, that small sliver with all this going on. I was like, wow, that makes sense. I can't blame myself for that whole situation because I didn't create that situation. You know, I was just there. And that helped me really get over that, blaming myself and just killing myself on the inside because of it. So think about that with other bad situations you might go through, right? Place that blame where it really belongs, right? Share it. You don't have to own it and destroy yourself. Physical exercise, we talked about that one. Improving mood and health. Put yourself a time out, have an angry workout, and get yourself in shape so you can continue being a good operator, whatever you are. Moral compass, spirituality, living by meaningful principles, right? Something greater in yourself. Knock that one out of the park. Social support, resilient role models, family, friends, coworkers. So your social pillar, we talked about that. You know, make sure that in that you have resilient role models to look up to, right? Get guys and gals to talk to you, right? Have that open door. Be a little more open with things. I am not one to anymore to hide my feelings. You know, if I see someone that I work with having a bad time, I'll go talk to them, try and get them talking, right? And then I might share some of my experiences. I'll open up, and some of them might be embarrassing, and just let them know that I'm human. We all make mistakes, okay? But we can get through it. My son, talk about resilient role model, he was 3 going on 4 when I was in Kirkuk in 05. And he spent a lot of time at my mother's house. And this little kid, 3 years old, my mom can't find him in her house. Decent sized house. But she finally finds him. He's pieing in the corner around the couch with a stick. And she's like, Blake, what are you doing? He's like, I'm hunting bad guys. Why? So Dad can come home sooner. You know, he's always loved it. But I've always been honest with the kid is the thing. He knows that I love my job and I love what I do, and I don't hide anything from him when he has questions. That way he understands it and he sees how much I enjoy it, and that allows him to be happy and enjoy it for me, right? Sucks that dad goes, but he's proud and he's resilient through that deployment because he knows that I'm loving what I'm doing. All right, so a little more of the story. Kirkuk, 0506. I didn't put on the 3 beers a day deployment because I wasn't going to count. I got sunburnt. Right. That was rough. But so Kirkuk, brand new team leader. I was a young staff sergeant. Saw a lot of combat. PTSD wasn't talked about then. Didn't have any good mental health support. And my divorce finalized while I was there, and I put alcoholic on there because when I came back from that with the lack of mental health support I had, I got really frustrated. And all right, so first of all, before I left country, you got to do that, your health assessment before you leave. And when I took my airmen and we had to go up to turn these in and they reviewed them, we got called back in the office and this wonderful individual told us that we were in the Air Force and that didn't happen. You really saw dead people? You really fired your weapon? I was like, yeah. He's like, that didn't happen. I almost came across the desk. We'll just put it that way. So then I get back to Travis. Now, unfortunately, all these was when I was at Travis, right? AMC base, different mentality than AFSOC, okay? Our EOD flight there was literally the first guys at base, I'm pretty sure of, had ever had return from combat of this nature, right? I mean, they did not know how to handle this. So I get back and they're like, you need to go talk to mental health. All right, so I go. And I spent 45 minutes spilling the beans to this lady. Bless her heart, civilian mental health. She just didn't know how to handle me. 45 minutes spilling the beans. Stories that I hadn't talked about yet. That me and Barnes, my team member, would sit there staring at a fire every night up against our bunker, right? And just stare at the fire. Just stare. We didn't talk about things. We didn't know how to process what we were seeing and dealing with. We had a sniper shoot around one day right between our heads, or one night, because I could see the flame ricochets off the concrete. I mean, we're 3 feet apart. We didn't even move. We were so numb. Just didn't care. Like, that was close. Back to the fire. But I'm in tears when I get done telling these stories. And she's like, wow, that's a lot to handle. You think? And she's like, well, I understand how you feel, because when I was 6, my dog died, so I understand loss.
You almost came across the table. Wow.
I said some colorful things and I walked out of there. And I made the mistake of going on my way home from work and I bought a bottle. And I went home and I drank myself to sleep that night. And that was a common recurring theme for me because I could not sleep. I did not know how to deal with it, and I knew that she was not going to help me deal with it. She just tried to relate everything I just told her. So many stories. I had this friend, one of the support units that was there with us. She was a little specialist, I believe. I can't remember now for the life of me. I've been blown up too many times. But her Humvee, caught an RPG, skipped off the pavement, went up through the back tire, right through the back seat where she was sitting at, threw her plates and took her guts all over the Humvee. All right? Spent a lot of time talking with this young lady. That'll make you an emotional wreck when you got to clean that up. At 2 of my security elements, 4 men in one gun truck and 5 men in another gun truck, 2 weeks apart, catch IEDs underbelly. Gutted those trucks. Body parts everywhere. The one of them, the first one, I mean, that was the first time I really dealt with that many casualties at once, and men that we've been working with for months and knew. And their guys were obviously a little messed up. So after we got the majority of them in body bags and on the Casevac bird out of there, our battalion CO came out, Colonel Hudson. He was awesome, and his wife sent him actual Copenhagen in the cardboard cans instead of that plastic stuff that says for prison and military use only that they give you over there. So he hooked me up with it. But I was like, hey, sir, push your guys back. Me and my guys will walk the line. There was a space about as big as this room where there's just little body parts everywhere. Don't want to leave that out there. So we'll walk the line. The 3 of us and the chaplain who came out, and we walked back and forth with Ziploc bags, picking up little body parts. And I remember Gaminiak, my airman, he just stopped dead in his tracks and he was just standing there like this, looking at a piece. And it was right there that I knew, like, it finally set in. We were going through the motions, but right there, those emotions set in on what exactly we were doing. And because he was holding Sergeant Scott's testicle. And it was really rough. But the worst situation, I would say, we had this incident in town, in Alhuija was the town, and Wild Freaking West. I had an RPG skip off the hood of my Humvee one day. Awesome. I actually made the mistake of getting out of my Humvee one day without my M4. I was just going to do a quick post blast. Right as I'm walking around the side of my Humvee, there was a wall of gunfire from these buildings. Bullet skip. I actually had to hide behind the tire of the Humvee while our gun trucks just unloaded, so I could get back in. They're ridiculous. But we had an IED downtown. It was right up against the shop. You know, glass windows. It was like a 2-story, and we had to blow it there. And the conventional unit that was there was a National Guard unit. That found it. I told them, I said, hey, you guys need to clear out all these buildings because I'm blowing this thing here and we're going to have a lot of damage to some of these surrounding buildings from that blast wave. They're like, roger that. And they went through and they cleared the buildings. And they came back, they're like, hey, everything's secure, you guys are good to go. I said, roger that. Crank that shot off. There's about 50 pounds of explosives. And go back down range, check the shot, do a little BDA on that shop that was next to because it blew out the windows and that. And all I hear is screaming and crying. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it's coming from around the backside of the shop. 2-story building, remember? Their houses, living quarters will be on the top floor. And you guys watch Black Hawk Down? Right? You know, that scene at the end when they're, just before they get back to the stadium, that dude walks across the road carrying that child. You know what I'm talking about? Imagine that right now. But imagine it's women screaming and crying, men in tears carrying 2 little girls about 6, 7 years old in their arms, and there's hundreds of holes through their body from glass. That still messes with me, right? I still blame myself a little bit for that one. But yeah, so she lost her dog though, so she related to these stories, you know. It was unfortunate. So anyway, I go to Baghdad barely a year later, and volunteered for that one. We had a guy that didn't really want to go, so I volunteered, of course, and I had like 6 of my airmen going. So yeah, I'm going. That one was a little bit different. We did route clearance. So 12 hours a day, 3 miles an hour, driving up and down the roads looking for IEDs. So much fun. Sometimes you find them by function. Our truck got rocked a few times. It wasn't too bad though. I mean, we got shot at a few times. Had an RPG go right over Dan Robinson, who actually used to be at the UD flight here. That dude saved my life one day because I looked down this alleyway and there's this burned out car. My captain's actually riding with us that day too, and he's like, "Hey, Brickey, isn't there usually a lot of people here?" I was like, "Yeah, get ready for something." Right as I say that, I look and this dude steps out from behind this burnt out car, shoots an RPG. Right? Who here has played Halo? Right? But why does everyone in the flight sit over here? I all play that. Right? You know when someone shoots that rocket at you and you're in the Warthog and all you see is that dark spot with the smoke? You know what I'm talking about? And you're sitting there just mashing on the X button, right, to bail out? Yeah, well I was doing that with my freaking mic, screaming like, RPG, 3 o'clock, and Dan's like, what the heck? And he looks, he's, swerves the truck, stomps on the gas, and that thing went right over the top of my window. And whew, that was a close call. We laughed about that because I was like, ugh. I knew I was going to eat that in the face. Luckily, he looked. So I did attempt mental health a little bit there. I kind of got forced into it though after we got blown up there. We're at the chow hall down at Fob Cow Sioux and got hit rocket attack. Got fragged in my back. It blew a giant hole in the side of the chow hall. We had like 37 casualties. My LT eardrum knocked out. My doc, who was sitting next to me, somehow the frag went between my feet and hit. He had a piece in his foot and in his buttocks. And so anyway, got them checked out, got them out of there. The place was on fire. The insulation, stomping all that out, getting guys out. But they made us go talk to mental health, right? But that doc there had experience dealing with other soft forces, right? And kind of helped me out with things for about 4 days before he had to go back stateside. So, but it was good to be able to talk to someone and understand that there was mental health support out there that I felt like I could get something out of. So that was good, because I was a little standoffish still. I was single, but I was holding myself together. We had a lot of fun. So that one in Baghdad, me and Phil were actually there together, right? My buddy I was talking about who died. And something else we did was when our airmen were having a hard time, because this was our second, third deployment, whatever, and so we were understanding things, how to handle what's going on up here a little bit better. And so we had a couple guys not doing so well, right, on his team. So I'd go and ride along with him and drive for him, and we'd have some fun together. Release 2 team leaders out together at the same time. Good times. And then I go between Baghdad and Basra. I met who would become my second wife. And Basra, though, all right, the problem with Basra, I got hit by a rocket in Baghdad. Now I'm kind of a control freak a little bit. I tell IEDs when to detonate, right? I tell things when to blow up until that point in my career when I got hit by a rocket, right? Now control got taken away from me. Now I never used to run to the bunkers before. Like when I was in Kirkuk, right, and I was talking about like the burn barrel in our bunker, we'd stand on top of it during mortar attacks because you could see them coming in, and we'd watch the guys running back and forth and we'd laugh. No one ever got hurt, so that's why it was funny, right? But the guys would be walking to the chow hall, right, and a mortar would land, they'd turn around, and it was the Red Horse guys one time, and they'd go to run back to their bunker, and one lands on the other side, and then they'd run back. It was comical. But, and we're just standing up there laughing, and they were not happy with us. But good times. Anyway, I get to Basra, and rockets were bad down there. Like the Brits did a good job of making everyone there happy. We got they had to rebuild how they set up their tents. So you usually walk in, into a temper tent where you got 5, 6, 9, whatever, 20 guys at, and you have little sheets hung up, right, so you have some privacy. And well, in the tents, when I walk into my tent, there is concrete walls, cinder block walls as high as this, right, from the floor up. They run both sides of it, and then every 6 feet they shoot off to the side of the tent and more. And then so you got like a 6x9 box of cinder block, and then a steel plate and concrete filled sandbags on top of that, and a mattress on the floor about that thick, and you slept on that underneath that. The idea was that if a rocket hits your tent, just you and maybe the guy next to you gets smoked, not the whole tent. Very smart, but coming after getting hit by a rocket, no, seriously. And then I lay down in my bunk and I look, and on the cinder block right across my face, there's like 100 and some odd ticks with little notes like, "Hey mate, that one was close." And I'm like, really? So Basra was the first time in my life I ran to a bunker. It was quite interesting. But I was married. I was able to call back, talk to my kids whenever I wanted to, and I was pretty self-sufficient. I mean, it was a different deployment because I was attached to a MOB unit. I was working with the Navy, so going out on the rivers and clearing ships, and I don't know, it was a whole different aspect. It was a lot of fun, actually. But then I go to Afghanistan in 2011. A lot of combat there. I got attached to an ODA unit, the Green Berets, and me and my guys, and we would go out for 3-4 days at a time and sleep on rooftops. Sometimes we'd have to shoot people to have a safe area to sleep in that night, and then we'd continue things in the morning when everyone woke up. A lot of IEDs. Everything we did there was dismounted. We put in about 170 miles on our feet, carrying 100 pounds of gear. My hips have never been the same since then. It's weird, like I plant rotate and then pop, and it's miserable. But it was a life-changing experience for sure. Not just for the fact that I got blown up. Now I have tinnitus in this ear. This eardrum's blown out. I got frag, and my body just doesn't react the same as it used to. People get mad when I'm like, "Huh? Can you repeat that?" Turn like, here's the halfway good ear, But it was the brotherhood that we created there was ridiculous. I mean, we were going through some stuff, and everyone kept a pretty good mindset about themselves. Me and Mark Stafford, my airman, I had an airman and a staff with me, and it was my 2 guys. And Me and Mark got in our combat high five. We had to have a 240 gunner hold down suppressive fire so we could run and jump into a canal to get to an IED to rescue guys that were trapped on the other side of it. We had to clear that so they didn't come across. Ran and jumped in that and we're like, hey, we made it. High five. You know, gotta have some humor. Pretty good mental health support after I got back, and I did have pretty strong family there and attempted spirituality afterwards, and that goes into talking about Phil. The other kicker to it with Phil was I requested to go to that flight. This was not too long after Phil had died, and I was talking to our deployment manager at our flight chief's course. Might have been at a bar, might have had a few beers and made a little emotional, but I was like, I want to go. I want to finish what he started, and because he was doing some awesome stuff over there. And I volunteered for that deployment and got denied. So I had my functional up at headquarters call and be like, why aren't you letting Brickey go? Like, I got the guy for you. He's like, I think he's got a death wish. That's why he wants to go. I'm like, whoa! We took that the wrong way. He just wants to go do good stuff. And we did good stuff over there. Here, let me go to this one. I'll just lead you off with this scenario right here. Here's some of the problem with some of the things we dealt with. One day, towards the end of the 2-2 SCR's rotation, the conventional guys there, we were down with them blowing a bunch of explosives. On the way back, we broke up into 2 elements. We went straight back to the camp. They cut through the village. And from here to the gate that entered into our compound was only, 150, 200 meters. But as they're coming through the village, there wasn't a lot of people there, and suicide bomber detonated himself, right? Until that leg. What messed me up with this whole scenario, I mean, we did great teamwork, getting everyone there. This fine gentleman is combat controller. He's actually here at the STTS now. You know, he got a ATVs and that, so we can get the guys on our base to use our helipad, our LZ. But our 2 Canadian counterparts that were down there, when we were out with the 2-2 SCR, they were wearing the ACUs, right? We were wearing our multicams. So me and my team members always stood out, right? We had targets on our heads. Well, they happened to be with that element, and the only guys wearing funny uniforms that really resembled our multicams. Suicide bomber waited for them to be right in front of him to detonate himself. These guys never really left the camp. They were targeting me and my guys, and they got hit, right? So that kind of messed with your head a little bit. Like, man, someone got hit because of me. Someone wanted me, and they got them instead. But you got to find some humor and stuff, right? So he's sitting here, stripped down, blood everywhere. He's actually in a good mood. We're talking, this and that. And I come walking up to him and I'm like, hey dude, why is your underwear still on? And he's like, well, I don't know. I was like, did they check you out? He's like, I don't know. I pulled up his underwear and I snapped it back down. I was like, ugh, sorry bro. And he's like, what, is my still there? I was like, yeah dude, you're good. But I got him laughing though, you know? And then we started to have a lot of fun after that, you know? You gotta find jokes. Our big thing was calling each other quitters when we got blown up. So, like Dan Fye, he was another Air Force team leader. He was actually one of my guys at Travis for a long time. Made staff, PCS, and then he went with me on this deployment and was a team leader. And he got hit. I had to go out to do his post blast because I had him down there with me for a while. But he's a big guy, like 240, 250. We called him BFF, Big Fat Fi. That was a joke. But he got hit by an IED and it's fairly small. And he stepped on it, it blows, and instead of getting thrown in the air, he just crumpled to the ground, right? So when Mikey Dove, his team member, comes running up to him and be like, hey dude, what's going on? He was sitting like this in the hole, right? And Dan just looks at him, he's like, wow, that hurt a lot more than I thought it was going to. But he was sitting like this because that leg was gone. But you know, it's just, you know, we make jokes like Dan now the dude's on one leg and he can squat like 350 pounds. He's like competing in lifting. It's pretty awesome. We still talk all the time. But humor. So this scenario, Jeremy Brees, Army Staff Sergeant, right along mission. This is that opening slide picture, right? This is his crater. Now, he came up out of this hole, stepped on the crater, flew about 20 feet in the air, and then landed. And this was only about from here to that back door away from me when it happened. I watched it happen. So I went running down the road, told Dave and Mark, my team members, I said, clear up, right? Because I took off in a sprint, and I said, dock with me, right? We came running up the road, jumped over, you can't see it here, but there's a bunch more loose dirt here before the gravel. Jumped that into his crater. Immediately got tourniquets on him, got the blood stopped, this and that, and started an IV, etc. It took about 30 minutes to get the chopper there, though. It was delayed. But in the process of working on him, he started to go into shock, obviously. Right? Started to become very uncomfortable, especially after you lose a limb. Your nerves don't know it's gone yet. So he's like, man, my feet hurt, etc. And he kept trying to rub his feet. Bro, your feet aren't there, dude. You know, things started to come to realization for him. And so we started to crack some jokes, right? Find good in adverse situations, etc. We're like, hey, dude, you're gonna have sweet robot legs. You're gonna be walking before we get back. You know, one of the guys is like, bro, throw some freaking skates on there, dude. You skate around, you know? And these guys had a running joke during our nightly commanders, our bub. Every time my slide came up, they'd have a different picture of Matt Damon up there, and with my last name over his name tag, right? So Dave, my staff, he comes walking up, and he's like, dude, you get all-star treatment. You got Matt Damon working on you. You know, it was just jokes. But Jeremy we had him laughing, right? We went from shock to laughing and actually kind of enjoying himself. And then it was right after I got blown up, because we were Facebook friends and that. Right after I got blown up 2 months later, he sent me that. I wanted to write you earlier, but I didn't know your name. Plus, I've been really busy. I want to thank you for helping out when I was hurt. It's kind of foggy now what happened, but I think you helped save my life. I was extremely scared I was going to die, but you stayed by my side, reassuring me till I got on the bird. Thank you so much. That made me freaking cry when I read that. I never thought in my life, getting that kind of message was kind of life-changing. It was awesome. Me and Jeremy are still friends today. I went out and visited them a couple years ago, and make short jokes now because he's not his fault. But you gotta have humor, okay? And so anyway, he got hit, a couple more IEDs, and then you saw that picture of me sitting on the truck, right, where I'm just a mess. Our first sergeant, he was a mess, very angry, and we're sitting next to this creek bed. Right in the middle of, or this canal, right in the middle of this little tiny village. And all these kids and people started lining up on the other side of us, just sitting there staring at us. Right? And everyone's sitting on the other side, staring back at them. And all the service members, were a little rough, because we lost Jeremy and Pops. He had a ruptured spleen, the guy that was standing behind him when that ID detonated. Not a good atmosphere. So I started throwing some rocks in the water, to splash the kids, and then they'd throw freaking boulders in the damn creek. We had a good time. Because for me, like, playing with my kids is a great outlet, right? Well, there's kids over there and they like to have fun, especially when you take a picture of them on your digital camera and then you turn it around and they've never seen this before and they think you took their soul, right? Like, take off running and crying, like they just put me in that, so you have to get your Turk to explain it to them. But that might have happened a few times. Eventually I walked around and this gentleman here, he seemed pretty cool. He's just hanging out, so I went over, sat down with him and his kids, tried to communicate a little bit as well as we could, and ended up having a good time. Threw his daughter on my knee, or give a little horsey rides, and it was great though, but it completely changed that atmosphere. So think about that from the resiliency standpoint. I saw how bad everyone was, and I was like, I'm in a bad way right now myself. What's a good outlet? I made that outlet happen, and it changed the mindset of everybody. It was awesome. I don't really have time for this one. This is just, so having a little bit of mental fortitude and having to deal with things. So this guy, Big Lou's, TAC P, this is me and him laid up here on this rooftop. I don't know, 4 or 5 guys are a couple hundred meters away behind this wall, shooting at us. They're kind of sissies, they shoot over the wall and then hide. Not fun for a gunfight a lot of times with these guys because they just won't come out and play. But anyway, I took a pretty sweet picture of him. He's actually talking to this helicopter right here, bringing them in on gun runs. I'm shooting the wall where they are to mark, give him spots to bring them in. It was great teamwork in that. And then he emailed me this picture later. I didn't even know he took it for me. I'm glad it's blurry. You don't want to see my eyes in that. I look really angry for some reason. But we ended up sleeping on that rooftop, right? We were in a firefight until it got dark, right? And those guys quit. And then we had to sleep there because now it's dark and we don't know where they might have circled up at. We don't know. We don't want to try and walk through IEDs, et cetera, in the middle of the night because I think I had like 4 IEDs on that road just to get there. So we slept there, right? Reestablished things in the daytime. I slept like a baby. You just get kind of used to things, right? You just get your mind right, and you can get through them. Some more scenario. I don't have time for these ones though. Make sure you get pants that fit. You can't tell, but in that picture, my arms ripped from here to here. It was really sweaty that day. It was annoying. I had to wear those pants for 2 more days out on that mission. Again, playing with kids. What you don't see here is all these men here with their hands wrapped up, right? His dad was one of them. We rolled up a whole town to question them one day. And he was in tears, thought that we were going to do something bad to his dad. And so I took the time to play with this kid, give him little high fives, and hang out with him a little bit. Helped out. What it comes down to, though, for a lot of things with resiliency is that's me. I got my little battle axe there. I'm digging up the dirt a little bit. I'm hands on an IED right now. Got that piece of equipment. Robot couldn't handle it, so I had to walk down. What resiliency does for me, and this is for my life, and what it can do for you is just think about this. Is I trust my men and my family and the service to take care of me, and they've done a good job of giving me the mental state that I have, that when I have to handle a situation alone, I can walk down there strong enough to take care of it. And then no matter what happens, when I come back up range, whether it's in a body bag or at my own will, I'm going to have people there to take care of me, right? That's my resiliency. I know that that's going to happen. Okay? And then I get blown up. Humor at the worst times. So, Dave came up a few hours later on another medevac bird because he got his eardrum blown out. It's kind of funny because he was standing next to me. I detonated on this side. We got thrown about 20 feet. I landed on top of him. He was blacked out but mobile, right? Like he pushed me off of him and was just walking around, dazed and confused. Stafford, Mark, my airman, was coming back down range, and when we blew up, and he's like, "Oh crap!" And he's like, "That's Dave walking around." And he's like, "Dave, where's Brickey at?" And Dave's just unresponsive, just stumbling around. There you are, buddy. And anyway, his mom messaged me and was like, "Hey, Dave told me you took the frag for him and that's awesome. You're my hero." And I was like, "Hey, didn't happen that way. I just happened to be between him and IAD. Okay, so don't give me that credit. I would have, but." So, fentanyl is awesome. Well, first of all, I got my morphine shot. Don't take that. I'm not saying go get fentanyl, okay? But so when I'm on the medevac bird, I got Brock, my buddy, another ODA guy. He's all messed up, and I'm holding him up, right? He's bleeding out of his face, and in a lot of pain. I look at the flight med as an army chopper that picks us up. I'm like, "Hey," he knew what that meant. He goes and hands me morphine. I'm like, "Dude," I'm like bleeding out of this hand. I almost lost this finger. And I'm holding my pants tight. He sticks me. I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Now, dude, Brock." Brock has no idea what's going on, right? And he's like, "He wants it?" I was like, "Yeah, he wants it." So by the time we landed, we're already feeling pretty good. Me and Brock are like, they separate us because they put you in these little curtain offs, right? You each get your own little spot there. And I'm like, "Where's Brock at?" And Brock's like, "Where's Bo at?" And we're yelling back and forth across the OR. And they're like, "Dude, shut up. You guys are okay." We're like, "No, put us next to each other." They're like, "You'll be next to each other in a little bit. Just relax." And we're crazy. But then they started fentanyl on me. Not a good idea because they stripped me down naked. And then they proceeded to check my entire body over. All right. Now, my chief told me this story because he's there like, "What happened?" I'm like, "I got blown up." He's like, "I got to do a report. What happened?" I'm like, "I got blown up." "Dude, I'm drugged right now. Come on." Well, what happened was this poor little nurse was like, "Hey, so we're going to roll you over. You're going to feel slight pressure." I was like, you put a finger in my butt? She's like, it's okay, sir. It'll just be a slight pressure. I'm like, you gonna use lube? She's like, yes, sir. I said, I don't need no lube. Just spit on it, ship 2 or 3 of them. So that's my fentanyl story. I don't have a filter to begin with, and that was bad. So we had that place laughing though. Humor, right? It's just ingrained in me, I guess. So, all right. I said it took like 7 years to get. I got blown up in Baghdad at Kalsu in 2007, and I got the Purple Heart from that one. Was it last year? The year before? It was 2 years ago, right? Long time. So I had some heartburn going on. I'm like, really? I'm gonna bleed for you? I had to pull a frag out of my own back, right? And they're like, he injured himself. I'm like, anyway, Purple Heart board. But I had some heartburn going on with Air Force. To be honest, I was like, I really don't trust that I'm gonna be taken care of at that time. Okay, and then I get blown up in Afghanistan. It still took them 6 months to get me that Purple Heart, right? But in the meantime, what they did is this big badass lieutenant right there happens to be my brother. He was in Kuwait when I got hit, and they got him on the phone at my request, and this individual's walking by the flight, so I'm like, hey, you a pilot? And Lieutenant Colonel, he's like, yes. I was like, Lieutenant Justin Brickey, get him on the phone right now. He's like, roger that. 2 hours later, I'm talking to my brother. 6 hours later, he's there. They just threw him on a plane, put together a C-17 mission, flew his butt up there. I was like, awesome. And so I had my brother bedside with me for like a day and a half is all they give him. But how cool is that, right? So I have my brother in Afghanistan come hang out with me. Awesome. All right, now I'm going to change my perspective a little bit. You guys are going to take care of me. And also, I got a lieutenant to take care of me. Like, I'm going to get everything I need now. And then we get back to Travis, and me and Dave, and Bruner, we all he got hit on a different incident, in a different part of Afghanistan. Anyway, Travis did a pretty awesome Purple Heart ceremony for us. Cool, thank you for that. And then I get here, and then when my Bronze Star with Valor finally caught up to me here, General Fowle took time. I didn't even know that he was going to come at first. And they're like, hey, General Fowle was going to give it to you. I'm like, really? The 3-star is going to waste his time to come down here on this stage and give it to me? Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. That dude cared about his people. I hold the same way. Those dudes are rock stars. And not dudes, those generals are rock stars. But like, I got to meet General Fowle for the first time. You know, we go over to the colonel's office, you know, a little meet and greet and everything. I hadn't met him up to this point. And he coins all my kids. Well, that's pretty cool. However, my kids are sitting right here where you are. And I'm sitting right here in the chair, and he's right there at the podium. And Daisy's like, not even 2 yet, right? And she's like, oh, that's a hard floor. She drops it. Okay. And Miko is like embarrassed. She picks up Daisy in the coin, and Daisy's like, that made a lot of noise. Right in the middle of the general's speech, like when he's talking, right? I'm looking, I'm like, I don't know how to react to this, because I've been in these situations before. It's like everyone's really uptight, and this is a ceremony, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, put your daughter on her lap, because that's your family, and they're here with you and deserve this moment as much as you do. I said, well, gosh darn, that's pretty awesome, right? The AFSOC's a pretty good family. So, to close, combat resiliency, right? We hit it. How to get through certain things, how to make things better for your people while things are going on, and how to take care of each other afterwards, right? That up, down, left, right, your social support is very important. As leaders, we got to make sure that we have a true open door. I'm never going to judge one of my guys for any of the mistakes they make. I'm going to help them through it. That might be helping them out of the Air Force, but I'm going to help them through it. We've got to take care of our people and be a family. I've seen too much in my career is we've gotten away from that family to we've got a lot of individualism going on and covering our own butt and frying people for it. And no, we've got to be a family, because, sorry, we got guys deployed right now, and we're going to be in the same Iraq, Afghanistan, ISIS. We're going to be in this for a long time. We need to take care of each other. build resilient airmen so they can be resilient leaders one day and take care of their men properly. Right? We've got to care. Mark Stafford, my airman on that trip, unfortunately he had to deploy again afterwards without me. His team leader left him in a damn cave by himself, throwing hand grenades around a corner, trying to kill this insurgent and drag a buddy out that was injured. Right? He almost quit the Air Force after that because of the issues he had with that deployment. Right? Because his leadership was letting him down. Fortunately, though, I was able to convince him that, hey, remember our deployment, right? We had a lot of good times, etc. So what he did was he invited me to be. I ended up being the best man for his wedding a couple years ago. My airman, but he's not my airman. I mean, he's my brother. Like, we will forever be brothers. One day, if we're ever stationed together, there'll be a time and place for ranking that. But for the time being, damn it, if he ain't my brother. I mean, we're just talking last night about stuff and helping each other through some things. This message that he sent me was a couple years ago, and it just means a lot to me that I was able to affect an airman in the way I did, to where he will forever know that I am his brother and we are family. And you can read that or see that in how he talks to me in this. I guess it's already your birthday there, so happy birthday. I hate to get all sappy, but explicit you. You taught me so much, more than I can explain or show, but I feel comfortable and confident about this upcoming deployment, and that's 100% because of the things I learned from you. Plus, you brought me home in one piece, barely. He may have been standing on 2 different IEDs at 2 different times where I had to safe them while I was standing on top of them. Awesome. When I think of an EOD tech, I think of you. You're not only the best EOD tech I'll ever know, but one of the best men I'll ever know. I've never been more proud to call someone my brother. I love you, bro, and I hope you have a fan-freaking-tastic day. P.S. You're old. Get used to it. Right? This is awesome. Awesome. So, anyway, questions in the open forum? You got like written down?
It's only one.
Did you write that while I was talking?
Yeah.
You weren't even paying attention.
I keep up. We're kind of like-minded individuals. Matt Damon's your favorite actor?
No.
Top 5?
No.
No?
He feels into me.
Okay, I can see that. I can totally see that. Assalamu alaikum. Shatoda Sabahai. You're in Afghanistan, right? You should know that. Thank you for your time, your talent, your treasures, and most importantly, your service in answering the call. It's a 2-part question. Since the inception of POTF, how much more has your ability to know yourself improved, and how much happier are you?
So back in the fall, when I found out that I was going to be getting another divorce, one of the first stops I made was to our POTF, and she's an amazing person, and it helped me out a lot because I knew that I could say whatever I needed to in that office, and it would just be between me and her, and she could help me out, give me some different ideas on how to do it. And that's not the first or only time I've talked to POTA. I really enjoy that program.
Great answer, so I appreciate that.
Yeah. Anything else? Go ahead.
You were talking about in 05 that the horrible experience with the woman and her dog dying and alcoholism. How did you get through that since you didn't have that mental health?
So, between there and Baghdad, the next deployment was really rough for me. Okay, I did not handle it very well at all. Fortunately, I didn't get myself into any trouble. What I did though was I had 6 of my airmen getting tasked for a deployment, and I was able to see into myself what I was doing wrong, And so I was like, damn right, I'm going with my guys. And I like to deploy anyway. I get to do my job over there. But what I did was I went to lead my men and help them through what they're about ready to endure. And I deployed again because then I could get away from my problems there because I could get over there and concentrate on my job and deal with it. And then while I was there, after getting hit there, started talking to a doc. And that helped me and provoked me to make it okay for my men to go to a doc. So when we got back to Travis after that deployment, I continued going to mental health, and that for myself and for them, so they know it's okay. Because there was that stigma, right? Yeah. What does PTSD stand for, by the way? I hate that disorder part on it. Okay, post-traumatic stress, right? We deal with stuff. You guys will throw that disorder on there, and then they'll use that as an excuse to beat their spouses or drink too much. I hate that. Figure out the tools and resources, right? Talk to your friends, open up, and get through that post-traumatic stress, right? Yes.
So I'm Plunk over the med group.
Uh-huh.
Mine's not really a question, it's more of a statement.
Okay.
But I think that thank you for coming out here and talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's hard and I know you needed a break. So I'm glad you're back at it because I don't want to underplay what you do. What you're doing right now is historic. And what I mean by that is you're sharing stories that we don't hear. I work medical. I'm not foreign medic, so I don't get to share these experience or hear the experiences shared. And it really increases the emotional intelligence of others that don't have that opportunity or are not put in those positions. So thank you, and it really is historic what you're doing because you are part of the change in the stigma. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Y'all are awesome. Anything else?
Would you consider coming out to speak at a Master Resilience course?
Definitely. Yeah.
Basically everything that you just talked about was the 4 pillars. I mean, this is your story is true life, like a perfect example of how I guess basically what the Air Force wants to see the resilient program go towards. So for somebody that's been there and has done that, just so people aren't blowing it off. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I've actually gone to quite a few different units by request to specifically speak to them. And I can change this up a little bit if you need it done. So, yeah, just course leaders got my info. You can look me up, Ronnie Brickey. So I'm the only Ronnie Brickey in the damn global. Anything else? No? All right, I'll be out in the hallway a little bit if anyone wants to hit me up individually. I know sometimes I'm private with questions, and that's okay. So thank you for your time.